For many years, Willie Nelson kept a secret that made him feel bad every day. When Kris Kristofferson died, Willie couldn't keep quiet anymore. He said that Kris wasn't just his friend or someone he played music with. Kris was the reason Willie made it through his worst times. But there's something even sadder. Willie waited until after Kris died to finally say it out loud. Willie said he felt terrible for never telling Kris the truth. What Willie told people about those really hard nights will make you sad. Some secrets are too hard to keep by yourself. Willie Nelson was born on April 29, 1933, in a very small Texas town called Abbott. Only about 300 people lived there. It was during the Great Depression, the worst time for money in America. 1 out of every 4 people didn't have jobs. And right when things were really tough, Willie's mom left. He was just 6 months old when she walked away to look for work and never came back. Not even once. Soon after, his dad left too. Willie and his sister Bobby were left behind, with no one but their grandparents to take care of them. They went to live with their grandmother Nancy and grandfather Alfred. Nancy taught piano lessons. Alfred worked making things out of metal. The family had almost no money. Winters were so cold they put newspapers on the walls of their house just to keep the cold wind out. This was how Willie grew up in a world that was falling apart, with hungry people and broken hearts everywhere. By the time he was 7, Willie was picking cotton in the hot Texas sun after school just to help buy food. That same year, he almost died. He got really sick with pneumonia in 1940, a sickness that was killing kids everywhere. Doctors weren't very good back then, and thousands of kids died every year. Willie was lucky to live. That sickness almost killed him, but it also made him tougher. That toughness would help him get through the hardest parts of his life. When he was 6, something happened that changed everything. His grandfather gave him a guitar. It wasn't fancy, just a cheap one they could barely buy. But the moment Willie touched it, something special happened. By 7, he was already writing songs. His first one was probably a little church song, something simple. But even as a little kid, music gave him a way to survive. By 10, he was already playing music in local bars. He made more money than most grown-ups picking cotton. This little boy in dirty work clothes had become really good at music, but his life at home wasn't easy. His grandmother was very religious. She went to the Methodist church that had been in Abbott since 1899. She didn't let people dance. She thought it was bad. Every Sunday, Willie sang in the church choir, acting like the perfect church boy. But secretly, he drank beer and smoked cigarettes. He was scared, thinking he'd go to hell. And while his grandmother prayed, he listened to Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys on the radio. Music she would have called evil. Years later, in a weird twist, Willie bought that same church to save it from being closed down. Then came a heartbreak he never forgot. In 1939, when Willie was only 6, his grandfather Alfred died from pneumonia. The man who had raised him, taught him guitar, and loved him like a father was suddenly gone. Willie said it was like losing his dad. After that, life got even harder. He had to milk cows every morning before school and work long hours just to keep going. That loss made a fire burn inside him. He became more stubborn, more independent. He started living by his own rules. That's where his rebel spirit began. In 1950, when Willie was 17, he joined the U.S. Air Force right after finishing high school. He wanted to serve his country, but after just 9 months, his back got hurt. He got injured lifting heavy things. The injury was so bad they had to let him go. Just like that, his dream of being in the military was over. With no money and no plan, he went back to music. In 1956, he moved to Vancouver, Washington, and got a job as a radio DJ. There he made his first record called No Place for Me. He added a song called Lumberjack on the other side. He even made his own record company, Willie Nelson Records, and sold the records himself along with signed photos for $1. Big record companies didn't want to put it out, but that didn't stop him. He sold 3,000 copies just by talking to people on his radio show. Even with this small success, money was tight. He worked late nights, washed dishes, and even tried to join a show called the Ozark Jubilee, but got turned down. Eventually, he gave up and went back to Texas. There he sold Bibles and vacuum cleaners just to feed his family. He even worked selling encyclopedias. Life was really hard, But all that pain showed up later in his songs. In Fort Worth, he started playing in crazy honky-tonk bars. These places were loud and violent. Fights happened every night. Willie needed protection just to survive. So he hired Paul English to play drums and watch his back. Paul looked scary with a pointy beard and he carried guns. Together they made sure no one messed with them. Willie even got into fights himself when drunk strangers tried to control his music. But these rough nights taught him how to control a crowd and how to survive the music business. Then came a moment that broke his heart, but changed his path. In 1959, he was broke and about to get kicked out of his home. So he sold a song he wrote called Family Bible for just $50. That same song became a huge hit for another singer. Around that time, he also sold Nightlife for $150. Both songs made tons of money, but not for him. He learned something important. Always own your songs. That lesson would help him make money later. By 1960, he moved to Nashville. He was almost 30, cold, broke, and sleeping in his car. One snowy night, he was so sad, he lay down in the snow and waited to die. A friend found him just in time. Then, a man named Harlan Howard heard his music at Tootsie's Orchid Lounge. He convinced a company called Pamper Music to hire Willie for $50 a week. That tiny paycheck saved his life. In 1961, he wrote Crazy for Patsy Cline. Her husband had been playing Willie's songs all the time, and she hated it, until she finally listened to Crazy. The song became her biggest hit, and was popular with lots of different people. But Willie barely made any money. The record companies took most of it. That betrayal made him hate the Nashville system. He started pulling away from it. In 1962, he put out his first album called And Then I Wrote. It had big songs like Crazy and Funny How Time Slips Away. But the album didn't sell. People loved the songs, but not when Willie sang them. He had to go back to selling Bibles just to eat. Everyone else was getting rich off his music. He was still broke. He got another chance when Liberty Records put out Touch Me in 1962. It reached number 7 on the country charts. But Willie didn't want to follow the same polished sound that everyone else used. He wanted control. Liberty didn't like that, so they dropped him. Even with chart success, he was left with nothing. In 1963, he joined Ray Price's band as a bass player. Even though he didn't really know how to play bass, it gave him the chance to tour and learn the stage. But during this time, he drank a lot. One night, he got into a bad car crash. It almost killed him. He started realizing he had to face his problems, though it would take years. Willie Nelson wasn't supposed to become a movie star, but in 1979, everything changed when he appeared next to Robert Redford in The Electric Horseman. Nobody expected the quiet country singer to be good on camera. Yet he did something that shocked everyone. He didn't follow the script. He made up his lines while high on marijuana, and somehow it worked. The $12 million movie became a hit. And Willie didn't even pretend to be someone else. He just acted like himself, wild and unpredictable. That was the moment he showed the world he was more than just a voice with a guitar. But the road to that moment had started years earlier after his heartbreaking rejection in Nashville. In 1972, RCA Records let him go. No one wanted his sound, so Willie left. He went back to Texas, and that's when everything began to change. He found a strange music scene in Austin filled with hippies, long hair, and open minds. There was a little place called Armadillo World Headquarters where cowboys and rebels mixed with tie-dye and peace signs. And Willie fit right in. In early 1973, he sat in a New York hotel bathroom, grabbed a pad box, and wrote down the words to Shotgun Willie. That weird moment became his new beginning. The album didn't do well across the country, but in Austin, it sold better than anything he'd ever made. It only reached number 41 on the charts, but it started a fire. The outlaw country movement was born. 2 years later, in 1975, he did something nobody expected. With just $4,000 and full control over his music, he recorded Red-Headed Stranger in a small studio in Texas. The record company hated it. They said it sounded like practice recordings, but Willie refused to change anything. The album came out just as he made it. It sold millions of copies. His version of Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain became his first #1 hit. He hadn't had a top 10 hit in 13 years. That one song won him his first Grammy. He proved that raw, honest music could beat the polished Nashville machine. But success came with dark times. In 1976, he joined Waylon Jennings on an album called Wanted the Outlaws. It was a mix of old songs and a few new ones. Nobody thought it would matter, but it became the first country album to sell 1 million copies. It shocked everyone. It reached number 10 on the pop charts. Suddenly, Nashville had to take the Outlaws seriously. The next year in 1977, Willie's outlaw image took a strange turn. He got arrested in the Bahamas. Airport workers found marijuana in his jeans. He went to jail. His friend Hank Cochran brought him beer in the jail cell. Willie celebrated getting out by jumping in the air and ended up in the hospital. The judge dropped the charges but banned him from the Bahamas forever. That ban still hasn't been lifted. In 1981, while swimming in Hawaii, Willie felt a sharp pain in his chest. His lung had collapsed. Doctors said it was from smoking 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes a day. He had to cancel 18 concerts, losing almost $900,000. After that, he stopped smoking cigarettes but kept using marijuana. Years later, he switched to vaporizers to save what was left of his lungs. In 1984, he was invited to Johnny Cash's Christmas special in Switzerland. After filming, he sat around with Johnny, Waylon, and Kris Kristofferson. They started playing songs. By the time they flew home, they had decided to form a band. They called themselves the Highwaymen. In 1985, their album Highwayman came out. It sold millions of copies. It was a dream group of legends who felt left out of modern radio. But not everyone liked their name. In 1990, a 1960s folk group called the Highwaymen sued them. One of their members had become a federal judge, but the lawsuit failed. The country legends kept their name and finished their tour. That same year, Willie's world fell apart. The IRS said he owed $32 million in back taxes. It was one of the worst money disasters in music history. His accounting company, Price Waterhouse, had put his money in illegal tax shelters. The IRS took his ranch, studio, piano, and gold records. His daughter hid his guitar trigger in Hawaii so they wouldn't take that too. Friends had to buy his things back from auctions and rent them to him. He was homeless, broke, and embarrassed. To pay the debt, Willie did something no one had ever done. He made an album called The IRS Tapes Who Will Buy My Memories. It was just him and his guitar. Every copy sold sent money directly to the IRS. It didn't erase the whole debt, but it helped, and it made history. That wasn't his only public battle. In 1994, police found him asleep in his Mercedes on a Texas highway. In the ashtray was a marijuana joint. He was arrested again, but instead of hiding it, Willie started speaking out for marijuana reform. He turned his arrest into a message. Even as his public life got crazy, personal pain hit harder. On Christmas Day in 1991, his son Billy died by suicide. Billy was only 33. He had bought new clothes and gotten a haircut just the day before. He had been struggling with depression. Willie was on tour and dealing with the IRS nightmare at the same time. The loss almost broke him. He said those were his darkest days. His family life had already been torn apart. His third wife, Connie, found out he had fathered a child with another woman after finding a hospital bill. They divorced in 1988. By 1991, he married Annie D'Angelo, his fourth wife. Willie later said he had a gift for making things complicated. Even his charity work didn't escape controversy. He had started Farm Aid in 1985 to help family farmers. They raised $12 million in 3 years. But during his tax crisis, people accused him of using the charity for tax breaks. Willie kept performing, but by 1995 he admitted that most of the money went to farmers who were already losing their land. The system was broken and he couldn't fix it. Still, he never stopped making music. At 65 years old, he put out an album that sounded like nothing he had done before. It was called Teatro, and it came out on September 1, 1998. He didn't record it in a studio like most artists. He recorded it inside an old movie theater in Oxnard, California. That strange choice gave the album a spooky feeling. The sound was simple but full of drums and atmosphere. Emmylou Harris sang in the background, and the whole thing felt dreamy and raw. Willie even went back to songs he had written in the 1960s, like darkness on the face of the earth and my own peculiar way, and gave them new life. A filmmaker named Wim Wenders thought the recording sessions were so special he made a documentary about them. The album didn't win any Grammys when it came out, but it showed something even more powerful. It showed that Willie wasn't afraid of aging, not of change, not of breaking every rule of country music. When Teatro got re-released in 2017 with 7 new songs, people realized how much it had stood the test of time. Then came something even more shocking in 2008. On June 14th, fans were stunned when Willie Nelson, now 75 years old, appeared on a song with Snoop Dogg. The track was called My Medicine, and it was a mix of country and rap. It was produced by Everlast, and the music video quickly went viral. Seeing the red-headed stranger rapping beside a West Coast icon was more than just surprising. It made people talk. Some older country fans were angry. They didn't want their clean-cut hero mixing with someone famous for bad language, but younger fans loved it. The collaboration reached number 39 on the Dutch charts and proved one thing clearly. Willie didn't care about staying inside the box. He cared about staying real. And this move showed how hip-hop and country could work together when the message was strong enough. In 2015, something happened that should have been a moment of pure celebration. Willie Nelson got the Gershwin Prize from the Library of Congress. He was 82 years old and still performing in front of a packed house in Washington, D.C., singing On the Road Again. But during this proud moment, news broke about something very personal. Willie had gone through an experimental stem cell surgery just weeks earlier. His lungs were badly damaged. He had suffered from emphysema, smoked cigarettes for years, and fought pneumonia several times. He told the Washington Post that his lungs were really messed up. Doctors took stem cells from his own body and put them into his lungs, hoping to grow healthy tissue. He had to cancel some concerts to get better, and the stomach cuts made it hard for him to carry his guitar. But he came back to the stage within weeks. That wasn't just being brave. It was refusing to give up. At an age when most people stop everything, Willie kept singing and the world kept listening. By 2020, Willie had been nominated for 52 Grammys since 1974. That made him one of the most nominated artists in Grammy history. In 2020, he won his 10th Grammy for Ride Me Back Home in the Best Country Solo Performance category. In 2018, he won Best Country Album for My Way. And in 2016, he won Best Traditional Pop Vocal Album for Summertime Willie Nelson Sings Gershwin. Back in 2007, he also picked up Best Country Collaboration for Lost Highway. He was now ranked 14th on the list of artists with the most Grammy nominations, sitting behind legends like Quincy Jones, Paul McCartney, and Jay-Z. But what made this even more powerful was how he won these awards in his late 70s and 80s. He didn't just keep going, he kept growing. He tried jazz, pop standards, country duets, and even rap. He never locked himself inside one sound. That's why his story isn't just about country music. It's about fearless art. Meanwhile, Willie Nelson was already a legend when he met Annie D'Angelo. But deep down he was falling apart. His drinking had become dangerous. He was slowly destroying himself, even though the world still saw a smiling country star. In 1991, when he married Annie, everything began to change. She wasn't just his wife. She became the one person who could save him from himself. Annie had met him years earlier on a movie set working as a makeup artist. By the time they married, she knew exactly what kind of pain he carried and how close he was to losing it all. She told him straight, "No more drinking, no more excuses." In a 2024 interview, she repeated the family rule she made for him. "Don't be a damn jerk." Willie listened. He quit drinking and smoking and turned to cannabis instead. He said it helped him feel alive again, and for the first time in years, he actually looked forward to performing. They raised 2 sons together, Lucas and Micah, who grew up to become musicians too. Today, they tour with their father, carrying the music forward. In 2022, something scary happened. Willie was 89 when he caught COVID-19, and it hit him hard. He started having trouble breathing on his tour bus in Nashville. Annie didn't panic. She turned their Texas ranch into a full emergency hospital. She gave him breathing treatments, Paxlovid, antibodies, and steroids. At one point, she thought he wouldn't make it. Willie later said it was rough and that COVID was no joke. He also admitted it had hurt his mental health. During the pandemic, he lost many of his oldest friends, including Merle Haggard. With damaged lungs from years of smoking, nobody expected him to survive. But just 3 weeks later, he walked back on stage. Everyone was shocked, but he wasn't done yet. In 2024, another scare shook his fans. At 91, Willie had to cancel 7 shows on the Outlaw Music Festival tour. People feared the worst. Rumors spread fast online with fake photos showing him in a hospital bed. One even claimed his son Lucas said he was in serious condition. But it wasn't true. He was just tired. Touring non-stop had worn him down, and his emphysema was acting up. Still, in typical Willie fashion, he bounced back within days and performed at his 4th of July picnic in New Jersey. When asked about it, he simply said, "I'm 91 plus. I don't hurt anywhere. I don't feel bad. I'm not worried about dying." Back in the 1960s, long before all this, Willie had met another man who would change his life, Kris Kristofferson. They were both outsiders in Nashville, trying to break through with songs that didn't sound like everyone else's. Kris had been a Rhodes Scholar and Army captain before giving it all up for music. Willie saw something rare in him. In 1971, Willie sang "Me and Bobby McGee," one of Kris's songs. That moment helped shape the outlaw country movement. Years later, in 1979, Willie put out an album made almost entirely of Kristofferson's songs. He always said Kris made him brave enough to be different. In 1984, they made a movie together called Songwriter. They played versions of themselves, 2 legends fighting the music industry. On set, they made up many scenes, sometimes while high, just feeding off each other's energy. The movie reflected real pain they had both lived through. Willie had once sold his song "Nightlife" for only $150. That song later sold over 30 million copies and was recorded by more than 70 artists. The movie told stories like that. Kris even got nominated for an Oscar for the music he wrote for it. Then came Farm Aid. In 1985, the first concert brought in 80,000 people. Willie and Kris stood side by side on that stage. Kris sang "They Killed Him," a song for heroes like Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. Over the years, they shared many Farm Aid stages, but they didn't always agree. Kris leaned left. Willie leaned libertarian. They argued a lot, but their friendship stayed strong because they respected each other deeply. In 2024, after Kris passed away, Willie sang "Help Me Make It Through the Night" to honor him. It left the whole crowd in tears. Kris had been through hell starting in 2009. He began losing his memory so badly he couldn't remember what he was doing from one moment to the next. Doctors thought it was dementia or damage from boxing. For years, he disappeared from the spotlight. Then in early 2016, someone finally tested him for Lyme disease. That was the real cause. With the right treatment, he started getting better in just 3 weeks. Willie stayed by his side through it all. He visited him in Hawaii and never gave up on their friendship, even when Kris couldn't remember his own songs. When Kris Kristofferson died on September 28, 2024, it broke something inside Willie. Just weeks later, in a quiet interview with the Associated Press, he finally said what he had always felt. Kris was the greatest songwriter alive. He said it even though Kris was already gone. Maybe he wished he had said it earlier. He told the world that Kris left behind so many songs that people would keep singing for years. The words felt heavy with regret. After 6 decades in music, Willie still had things he wished he'd said out loud. Willie's pain didn't end there. In that same interview, he let the world see just how broken he felt. He said, "I hated to lose him." That was a sad time. It might have been just a few words, but for fans who had seen him survive everything, those words hit hard. He had already buried 2 other highwaymen, Waylon Jennings in 2002 and Johnny Cash in 2003. Now, he was the last one standing. The supergroup they started in 1985 had ruled country music for a decade. Their first album even hit #1. But now Willie was alone. His grief was deeper than anyone realized. It wasn't just the loss of a friend. It was the weight of being the last one left. Later that year, in another interview, Willie revealed something no one expected. He admitted that Kris Kristofferson's songs had saved his career during his worst moments. He never said it before Kris died. He mentioned Sunday Morning Coming Down, the song that won a Grammy after Johnny Cash recorded it in 1970. That song, Willie said, pulled him out of darkness more than once. Kristofferson's words had been his lifeline. He also talked about me and Bobby McGee, For the Good Times, and Help Me Make It Through the Night. All those songs gave Willie something to hold on to when he felt lost. He said Kris's music brought country out of the dark ages. It wasn't just inspiration, it was survival.